Hey guys, I'm Khalees. I know you've seen a couple of my videos, but with this video, I want to talk about something that's been on my mind a lot and something that I think I should share with the world or put out there. I want to talk about the value of hard work and the misconceptions of hard work. So, throughout my entire life, and I'm pretty sure throughout the entire lives of other people, we've always been told if you work hard and do what you need to do in life and you do things the fair and right way, and if you just put a little elbow grease and work hard, it's part of the American dream, right? You will ultimately gain success in life and you will be happy and a good person. That's what we've always been told. And as I get older, I'm 23 now, I realize that that is a myth. That's not real. It's something it's a concept that a group of people created to keep another group of people in the same social class, which is the lower and working class. So I began my journey in life as a little girl. I had a great family, great childhood, but I didn't grow up with a lot of money. I grew up in a working class home, and my parents did the best they could. And, um, you know, I wanted more in life. I wanted more for my children, more for my legacy. So, I was a good little girl. I got great grades in school, never got into trouble, went to college. I'm finishing up with my last semester in college. And, but I'm slowly realizing that hard work, it'll get you somewhere, but it won't get you where you want to be. And working hard, settling into a stable career, that will never guarantee you financial freedom. It will never guarantee you the opportunity to be rich. It will only guarantee you the opportunity to be stable and complacent, which is where the world wants most people. And when I say the world, I mean the upper class, wealthier 1% of the people who have the means to production and the means to most of the things that go on in society. Now, I want to reference a social theorist here, Mr. Karl Marx. He's a German social theorist, and he speaks about Marxism, which was his theory. And he had two social classes, the bourgeoisie and the proletarians. The bourgeoisie were the people with the means of productions. They controlled the businesses, the factories, and they infiltrated all of the wealth of the country. However, the proletarians were the hard workers. They're the ones who contributed most of their time and labor into the world and gained the least from it, while the bourgeoisie gained the most from hardly doing anything. Now, I say this to say his Karl Marxism theory is relevant today in the real world, and it has always been relevant. The people who work the hardest, the people who follow society's rules without an ounce of deviance, they mainly go on to be working lower class individuals, if they're lucky, middle class individuals. But if you want to get to that higher upper echelon elite class, it's not about how hard you work. It's about who you know. The world isn't, oh, if you work hard, do what you need to do, I'll reward you with financial freedom. No, it's if you help me and you do a service for me, I'll pay you for it. And that's how you gain financial freedom and get rich. For example, it's rare for a company to be like, oh my goodness, you worked so hard for me. You've been working hard all your life. Here, I'm going to give you $1 million. No, a company's going to be like, I'm interested in what you have to offer and how it can help me grow and me become a better person and how it can put money into my pockets. So I'm going to invest in what you have to offer with my capital. That's how the world works. And it's also all on a basis of who you know, who you have relations with. That's the world. It's more important to know people in certain circles than it is to work hard. That's the way the world works. It's a myth. And yes, we live in America and we have a class system, but I personally feel like slowly it's becoming more of a caste system. Yes, we live in America and we have a caste system where you can gain social mobility and you can work your way up from the lower class to the middle high class or the upper high class. With hard work, it's possible, but it's mainly about who you know and what you're blessed with, your resources. Think about it. Most of the people in the upper echelon high class, most of them didn't get there from hard work. They got there because of nepotism, who they knew, the resources they were born with. And that's life. I also don't think there's a such thing as a self-made billionaire. To become a billionaire, there are three ways you can become a billionaire. You can either marry into it, marry a person with money. You can either gain those funds from the government or simply nepotism, being born into it. And most of the time, if you decide that you're going to go the route of working towards that without those three factors, it's going to take some exploiting groups of people. So next, I'm going to get into other factors that can stop you from achieving success regardless of how hard you work. And those three factors are your environment, your resources, and social reproduction. So first, let's talk about your environment. Now, most people within an upper echelon class, they're surrounded by people who grew up with the same background as them, who had similar interests, grew up within the same culture as them. So, they're more than likely not going to be influenced by deviance, and they're going to be surrounded by success their whole life. Versus someone who grew up in an impoverished area where no one had anything, you're going to be surrounded by people who aren't going after the same things you're going after. They're not in the same headspace as you. They may influence you to do what they are doing. And a lot of people may not think that's powerful enough to stop a person who truly wants to achieve something, but it can be. It's all circumstantial. So, for example, let's say you're out with a group of friends and you're in a higher class, you get into a little bit of trouble, you may get a slap on the wrist because of who you know, or you may get a slap on the wrist because you can help out the person who wants to punish you. Versus if you don't know anybody and you're not considered anything to society, you don't have a name, you may not get a slap on the wrist. You could get into some major trouble and that could slow you down in life. And we're all people, right? So everybody's going to make mistakes. Everybody's going to do things that they regret. No matter how hard you try, be a perfect person who never makes mistakes, especially while you're young. So that's just a simple example. It may not have been the best one, but I think it's a pretty good one. Also, a big factor are your resources, what you have to work with. So for example, let's take a child who was born into a middle class lifestyle. Maybe their parents have a stable job where they make relatively good money and they can afford to send their child to a good university to obtain a good solid education that could lead to them getting a great job, or a good job that paid them good money. And that child could either also be in the middle class or move up into the upper class. But that's also look at the resources of a child born into an impoverished area with an underclass family that doesn't have anything. Well, what is that child going to work with? They go to probably an underfunded public school, doesn't have the best tools needed for getting a good education. Their parents can't afford for them to go to a good college or university. The school can't afford to give the students a proper education. that a good public school or a private school would be able to give their students. Now, so that's what the child is working with. So more than likely that child would probably stay in the lower class or the working class. But if they work hard enough and they make some good connections, maybe it's mainly built on those connections. Maybe they could possibly enter the middle class. And it's very unlikely that they would enter the higher or upper class. You guys got to realize that those is very secluded. It's exclusive. They're not letting everyone in. Next, the last factor is social reproduction. So if you're not familiar with the concept of social reproduction, it's the idea that from generation to generation, social classes are passed down. And I say this to say it's hard to break. These are basically, social reproduction relies heavily on generational curses. So for example, with social reproduction, if one generation is born into a lower class family, they don't have resources, they're complacent, the next generation or their children will be born into a lower class family, and it's just a continuum. Nothing's going to change unless somebody breaks that generational curse and get out of that class and move up to a higher class, which is highly unlikely. Social reproduction is very common. It's a big reason why there's a huge wealth gap in the United States, because, historically, if we're going to bring race and culture into this, historically, white Americans have been provided opportunities in the past that have given them the resources needed to maintain or obtain social mobility and move up to higher classes versus minorities in these countries, such as African Americans or Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans. They weren't given those resources in earlier decades. So yeah, that explains social reproduction. And I'm saying all this to say that, yes, because I don't want to make this video too long, and I know I've gone off topic and off subject a lot. I apologize if I have, but I usually just have so many thoughts in my head. I just want to start talking about the things that I see and my perspectives and outlook of the world. And I'm saying all of this to say, yes, work hard, but while you're working hard, remember to gain connections and to work smarter, not harder. And remember that it's not about always working hard and busting your butt as much as it is about knowing that you have to provide a service or value to someone to ultimately gain financial freedom. If you want to gain financial freedom in this country, the route is real estate. The route is business. The route is intellectual property, owning something. The route is not getting a 9 to 5 and getting up every morning and someone else's dreams come true. And I may get a lot of hate for saying that, but that's my opinion, and everyone has one. It's based on my own circumstances and experiences in the world. And as I get older, I understand that working a 9 to 5 is going to keep you stable. It's not going to make you a millionaire. It's going to make the person that you're working up under a millionaire, possibly. But remember, as long as you're working for someone, you're replaceable. When you have your own thing and you own your own property and your own products, that's yours. No one can take it away from you. So I'm saying all of this to say, I want everyone to have a piece of their own intellectual property, to own something. Just own anything. It doesn't have to be a business. It doesn't have to be some Fortune 500 company. Just own something and try to find a way to make it profitable or significant to the masses. But that's all I have to say. That's me debunking the myth of hard work and giving you tips on how to obtain true financial freedom, I guess. Thank you.